Okay, Red Cape Revolution. I am so excited today to introduce you to my friend, Casey Kristoffer Carter, who is the author of a great new book called Permission to Glow. So, Casey, thanks for being here on Red Cape Revolution today.
Oh, it's awesome to be with you. Thanks so much for having me, Darcy.
So Casey and I met through another friend of ours who's also an author, and we have books coming out around the same time. So we're both in kind of that nerve-wracking time right before your book comes out. But Casey, I'd love to hear a little more just about you and your work, and then we'll talk kind of about the message in Permission to Glow. I love that title.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, I just feel so lucky to be connected to people like you and Leslie M. We have between the three of us, I think we have our bases covered. We're glowing, wearing red capes, we're walking with swagger. I mean, what could possibly stop us, right? So a little bit about me on paper. I'm an executive coach. I'm a coach for founders and executives, and also I'm a meditation teacher for organizations. I look at those roles as kind of like a Trojan horse for what I think my clients really need, which is spiritual insight, a little bit more of expanded awareness. And I'm really passionate about yoga, which is at its core is just union with spirit. So I'm always trying to connect leaders and connect individuals to their own power and to kind of frame this idea of leadership as a spiritual conversation. So that's really what the book Permission to Glow is about. It's another level of nerve wracking. Like there's all the launch stuff that we get, nervous about, but then there's also the very vulnerable, like that edge of our vulnerability where we're pushing out everything that we're all about in a very public fashion. So I've been dancing with all of that lately, but more often than not, I'm just really excited to have it out there in the world.
Yeah, and your story is so interesting because this idea of leadership as a spiritual conversation, the idea of that you are an executive coach, which conjures up images in some way, and then a meditation teacher,
Yeah.
which kind of in conventional wisdom seems like they might be at odds, but you're finding that they're not really at odds anymore. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that journey and the types of conversations that you're having with your clients now.
Yeah, I think when most of my clients get to know me over a period of years working together, they might assume that I wear like a white robe and have a lot of toe rings and a beard, smell like patchouli, But I'm wearing, custom fitted dress shirts with my name insignia on them because I do work in corporate circles. And I think most coaches realize at some point that all coaching is truly life coaching at some level. You can't divorce your personal life from your work life. It's all integrated together. And how I've been approaching it since I started my own meditation practice about 15 years ago, the more I meditated, the more I realized that I needed it. And the more I became passionate about evangelizing that with others, that here's a habit that has the power to upgrade all other habits. I just thought it was crazy. And so yeah, that intersection of those two things coming together, I never would have thought it would have manifested in this way. It's not the work that chose me, or I'm sorry, it's not the work that I chose. It kind of chose me. And, as it continues to unfold, it just becomes this great adventure. I think most of my conversations these days with clients, like it starts out the typical thing, like, oh, I don't have control of my schedule, or I don't know how I'm going to get that Series B financing, or, there's clients' relationships to the things they're trying to create that we all work on as coaches. And what I've started to realize in adding meditation practice into the mix for both the client and for myself is that all of these things are capacity issues. We're trying to increase our capacity to hold more of what we want to create in life, whether that's just more room for all the chaos and disruption that's everywhere, or more room for all this abundance that we say we want to create. And that just started to feel like a spiritual conversation, in day in and day out with these clients.
Yeah, I'm curious though. So, how do we create that capacity? I mean, certainly the issues of overwhelm and
Right.
overload, I think our work overlaps in addressing those in
Definitely.
many ways. One of the chapters in my book that's getting the most noise, I guess, is a chapter about drop some balls. But
Yeah.
creating more capacity sounds like a lot, it would help a lot of people. How do we do that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the $1 million question. I think it could look different for a lot of us. First of all, then just the name alone, drops some balls, is there's so much compassion in that, right? And And I think compassion is one of these really important conversations we need to bring to personal growth in general. We think in our culture that we're just supposed to just launch ourselves out of a cannon the first of the year and now back to school season all over again and just achieve without the self-compassion of realizing like, maybe I don't need to juggle so much. Maybe I can, set these things down and make room for my family. So just even bringing self-compassion to the conversation is one of those ways to increase our capacity. That brittle need to always be accomplishing more, doing more, busy. I call it the affliction of I got this. I think it was well-meaning. It came out of like 1980s personal development, which I loved, by the way. I was like so into Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, all these things, Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits. All these things are amazing. However, they don't account for this very real wall that we hit pretty early on, which is realizing like, maybe this is not exactly what I wanted once I start creating all this stuff, or why am I so exhausted or disconnected from my partner? So to answer your question, that container looks a little bit different for everybody. And what I think is like the best days of coaching is when we connect or help our clients connect to their own power, and they start seeing adjacent possibilities. They start seeing that there's space. They're able to breathe and realize like, oh my gosh, there's time for what I want to create here, And when we're able to give people that gift, I think that we could feel their capacity kind of shift a little bit wider to hold more of what they want to create.
That time and that permission almost. And I love the idea of bringing compassion to it, because so many times I know when I talk to clients, they would never talk about somebody else in their world the way that they talk about themselves. Totally. They would never put themselves down or someone else down in the way that they might, do themselves. And so this goes to some of in the book, you have different permissions, including one of them is permission to chill. So maybe tell us a little bit about the permissions and where they came from, and especially the chill one. I'm very interested in.
Yeah. Especially, how can we give ourselves permission to chill while we're launching a book? I think that's like our own exploration we have to take offline, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Yes. So
I'll get some coaching from you after the recording goes off.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to do it. My, when I think about permissions, these aren't permissions that I'm here to give anybody else. I can't really give even my own kids permission. They're far more wired for speed and powerful than I am. I'm just trying to keep up with them. So all I can do is present these permissions and say, you might want to give these to yourself if you want to increase your capacity and do that thing you're here to do. So the book is framed in this pursuit of what's called the big honkin' dream. We all have one. We're here to create something bigger than ourselves. And there are 4 shadow characters that kind of get in our way. These are survival mechanisms and ontological coaching, which is what I practice. These are called survival mechanisms. And the first one that you mentioned, permission to chill, that shadow character is called Speedy Rabbit. This is when we're spooked into moving so fast all the time. And we usually default to judging everybody for not keeping up. We're like pitting out in our pantsuit, we're chugging the Starbucks and wondering why everybody can't move faster, and we can't stop. We have that shark energy. And the radical notion in our culture is to say, well, what if you just give yourself permission to chill the hell out, to just pause, be with what is? You'll start to notice you have these adjacent possibilities. And the easiest way to do that is through creating some sort of stilling practice, meditation practice, even 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, to just pause, be with what is. It starts strengthening that meta attention muscle that keeps us in line with, our original goals and stuff. So yeah, chilling to me is the foundational one. That's like clearing the palette, wiping the canvas clean so we can just start fresh.
So you used a word in there, meta attention, that it's a frame that I haven't heard before. So tell me about the meta attention.
Yeah, the meta attention, I call it the muscle, the most important muscle. So there's our attention, I'm focused on our conversation right now, but if I zoom the lens out a little bit, I might be thinking about what questions could be coming next. I could think about, the goal of the objective of what you're planning, what I want to get out of our conversation. We have this meta awareness. It's the awareness of our awareness. See, I told you it was meta.
Yeah.
but when you, in meditation, what you're doing is you're bringing the attention back as many times as necessary. So when your thoughts stray, that's totally fine. Bringing that attention back to the breath or to the present moment is kind of one repetition of flexing that meta attention muscle. And that's what strengthens over time. So we start tapping into that. In the serenity prayer, it's called the wisdom to know the difference, or the discernment to how do we know when we're off course, or how do we know when we're doing something that serves us versus doesn't. And I think that all comes back to our meta attention.
Well, and I think that's also interesting the way you frame it, because I know a lot of times when, and I don't teach meditation, I'm a imperfect meditator, seeker, not any kind of expert, but I know a lot of people who really swear by it and who have done it for years. But I've heard people have a resistance of saying, well, I don't, maybe not these words, but I don't feel productive doing it. Like, what am I doing it for? And what you just said was an activeness in the stillness that so you're actually building something in that stillness, which I think is a very interesting frame for a lot of very busy people who say, I can't take time and just sit and repeat a series of words for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And trust me, I have uncomfortable levels of energy, so me even sitting still for 5 minutes, let alone at Christmas, we do an 8-hour meditation, which sounds ridiculous to me, but we do it. And the thing about what you said is kind of like the foundational error, I think, that Western culture gets wrong about meditation. We think it's the absence of thought. Oh no, the monkeys will crawl in all the windows when you try to sit to quiet your mind. Like, try not to think, and then you start thinking, right? But it's that willingness to sit it out and to bring the attention back that strengthens that muscle. And there's a lot of compassion in that, to just be with your thoughts, to let it settle, to consciously settle it. That's where the power of meditation comes in.
So tell me about the other permissions that you talk about in the book.
Yeah. So when we clear the palate and we give ourselves permission to chill, it sets up the second permission, which is permission to feel all the feels. And this is to just be with our emotional palate, to listen to, or to be able to hear the wisdom our body is speaking through our feelings and emotions. A lot of us, the shadow character is called game face. We just throw on the Spartan armor like a 1950s housewife, like everything's fine, there's no weeds in my garden, and in reality, we might be feeling like, wow, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm suffering here. But when we cop to that, we could start tuning into this, kind of more intuitive path, to be able to interpret those feelings as data and to navigate accordingly. And those feelings point to root emotions that if we're guided by them, we could realize our body is telling us something kind of important here. And I think coaches really get this. Coaches are in the business of creating heightened levels of awareness with their clients, like almost painful levels of awareness of what's working and what's not. And when we connect our clients to their own intuition, to their own, kind of that whole body yes feeling. It's a conscious leadership term. We start realizing we have an edge because we're not being guided or dragged around by our hair anymore. We're consciously designing our experience. So feel all the feels is the second permission.
Great. I refer to that as listening to the whispers, and had that
Beautiful
experience in my own life where I'm going way too fast and not paying attention. And then, they want to be heard. And how do you slow down enough to hear them and then to create intentional action around them? And it's a skill. It's not something that anybody necessarily teaches you. And so it's something that has to be learned.
Well, and this is why I try to surround myself with really intelligent, powerful women. My wife, my coach, a lot of my mentors, you. Women are, I believe, wired to be tuned into that intuition piece. And men, typically in my experience, tend to drown it out with other things, whether it's alcohol or work or whatever, different isms. But to be with that still silent voice, I truly believe it's the quiet voice of speaking God whispering to us. And it speaks to us through those emotions and feelings.
And so as you think about the other permissions, so
it's where they get fun.
Where do we go from there? Yeah.
Well, the reason why most of us, I think, hire a coach is for permission 3, which is, I call it permission to glow in the dark. Leslie M might call it swagger. You might call it putting on the red cape. This is self-actualization with witnesses, doing the damn thing we came here to do, despite the ever-present fear. That's permission 3, permission to glow in the dark. And when I was writing that part of the book, I had to really go deeper into that experience of the darkness and the contrast of light and dark, and realizing we all travel with the fear. It's not a weakness. Courage is kind of that muscle we build by doing the thing anyway, despite the fear, and dancing with the fear and doing it anyway. So I used to think it was like unapologetic, like I'm just going to do me and do my thing. It's like, oh no, it's the strength you build by working with your darkness.
Oh, it's interesting to think about using your darkness, because I think so many times, not to get too esoteric, but I think we're afraid of it, right? We're afraid of the things that we know we don't do well, or the things that we know that we're not great at, or the relationships that we know we've let linger, that we've let lapse. So I think you have another permission, and then I really would love to hear like one thing that we can do right where we are, just as we are, to put some of this into play.
Absolutely. The fourth permission, a friend of mine, one of my heroes, songwriter Ani DeFranco, I was interviewing her for my podcast, and she said, well, what if you could just glow? What if we all just glowed without any darkness? And that's permission 4, permission to glow in the light. And when I had to kind of perceive and go into the meaning of this, what it could look like, I would think it looks like transcending competition for collaboration. It's the people, those of us who are brave enough to do the earlier work of activating the first 3 permissions, to chill, to feel, to glow on our own darkness. And then by virtue of doing that, we're not so much interested in comparison anymore. We're not so much interested in holding down underserved communities to lift ourselves up. We are here for the upliftment. And I think if our creator would want anything for us, it would be, I mean, look around the planet, we're in dire need of healing at a lot of levels, is to lift one another up and to see what true collaboration could look like.
And I think no matter what your belief system, the bigger messages of, I mean, I always say somebody out there needs you. And what I really think is interesting about your work is this glow in the light, is you bringing yourself to work, you're bringing your superpowers to work, as I say, and being able to help others, and through that help yourself and be able to do the things you're meant to do. So,
I think it's a huge point about coaching in general, and a lot of coaches listen to these conversations, and to me, I truly believe we are light workers, because we are in service to somebody other than ourselves. And yes, we get paid well if we're lucky in the process, and we get taken care of, but anytime we hitch our cart to the universal good or the good of others, beautiful things tend to happen and unfold, versus just worrying about ourselves all the time.
Yeah, that's one of my little internal prayers every time before I speak or do something online. It is let me help somebody today. That's really kind of what's behind
Beautiful.
it, always for me. So I'm curious then, for someone watching who some of these techniques still feel a little, woo-woo, airy fairy, they're in a corporate environment, but they're hearing some of those whispers. They know that there's probably something else to tap into. What's an easy way to get started?
Yeah, I'll give you a very stealth way for all of our corporate warrior friends. And, also too, there's nothing soft skills or woo-woo about the discipline it takes to clear your mind, So I would start by just doing 4, 7, 8 breathing cycles. So it's you exhale, you breathe in your nose for a count of 4, 1, hold for 7, 5, 6, 7. I'll breathe out through the mouth for 8. You do 4 cycles of that. It takes about 57 seconds. You're enforcing breathing patterns onto your involuntary nervous system. As you do it, everything is slowing down. We're becoming, even just that one cycle, you could feel it brings you a little bit deeper into your body, a little bit of the moment. And you start realizing you have more options than just staying in the do hamster wheel. So I would encourage people to practice 4 cycles of 4-7-8 breathing. Takes 57 seconds. You could do it with your eyes open. Nobody's going to judge you. You don't have to light a candle at your desk or sit on a meditation or put on your Lululemon pants. You can just stealth breathe with yourself. And then when you do that, I would tune into the feeling sensations in your body. What are my thoughts, feelings, body sensations? Just create that meta awareness. So after you do that breathing, what is my body asking of me right now? Is it hungry, angry, lonely, tired? What am I really working on and trying to achieve today? You just become a little bit more intentional. And from that place, I would look at permission 3. What is my biggest, most important work I could be chipping away at today? What is one little thing I will do today before I leave, just to move that forward? And then you're starting to thread and connect these concepts of chill, feel, glow, which is still yourself, tune into the wisdom of your body for a moment, and then get back to work and doing your most important work versus staying down in the maze.
Yeah, I love that. What comes to mind is still yourself before you kill yourself, right? Because we
Yeah, I
move
love
so
it.
fast. And even just that little bit, that under a minute, that's fascinating, that just taking that beat. And that is
Yes.
something that any one of us can do. And it's totally free and
It's amazing. And
yeah.
I mean, if you look around the world, I mean, there's so much what's called VUCA in the military terms. It's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. It is everywhere. So if it's not our political discourse, it's climate change, it's certainly COVID and what to do or not to do about it. It's everywhere. And all of us are spooked into moving too fast right now, understandably. We think if we sit still, we'll lose our job or die, or our family will end up in the gutter, whatever. There's just all of this perpetual feel, but just reclaiming the power by breathing. It sounds very simple, but why aren't more people doing it? And taking that pause, 57 seconds, and then tuning in with yourself and then getting back to work. I mean, it just starts training that meta attention into just being more intentional, pursuing more meaning and fulfillment versus just, you know, getting stuff done.
Yeah. Well, Casey, I think that's a great strategy to leave our viewers with. And so tell us where they can find more about you.
Oh, thanks. Permissiontoglowbook.com is probably the best resource these days. We have a new trailer for the site, as well as just some fun packages we put together around the book. And also thisepiclife.com is my website for my conscious leadership training.
Terrific, terrific. Well, great. Well, yeah, the book is Permission to Glow, comes out, I think, the week before mine.
October
And so
5th is the street
October
date.
5th. So by the time you see this video, it should be out there. And Casey's traveling around talking to people. So watch for him in a neighborhood near you and go and grab the book. As I always think that, purchase of a book is a vote for the author.
Oh,
And thank
thanks.
you, Casey, so much for the work you're doing, for helping us all chill a little bit so that we can glow more.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here today on Red Cape Revolution.
Thanks so much, Darcy. I loved our conversation.
Me too.